And I don't know, you know, like what kind of handbasket we're all going to hell in right now. But let me tell you, just because there's a lot of mad shit going on in this world, just because there's a lot of pain, just because there's a lot of anguish, just because there's a lot of uncertainty, does not mean that your self-care and your relationship to yourself has no meaning, darling. It does. Hello cherubs, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to have a big ramble. I'm going to have a ramble about self-care, my loves. I want to talk about some of the different best practices and mentalities with self-care that I think help me to maintain it as well as I can. And I'm also going to talk about some of the issues that have come up for me and that I know come up with others around self-care. And it's not going to be groundbreaking. I'm not going to draw any massively hard and fast conclusions about how everybody should do things, because obviously every circumstance is different. Everyone has their own stuff. But hopefully by the end of this video, you will have at least been able to take some time to figure out where you are with your self-care journey, what's working, what might need to come back in or sort of be amplified or highlighted a bit, and just give you an opportunity to think about what are the next self-caring actions or decisions that need to come into your life, you know? So it's going to be a bit real, a bit raw, a bit gritty, a bit honest, and also it's going to be sponsored by Aura. So thank you very much, Aura, for sponsoring this video. I greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to explaining a little bit more about the Aura experience later on. So, my darlings, it's mid-year. At the time of uploading this, it's mid-year. And on the Gregorian calendar, you understand, not on the wheel of the year, because that would be quite wrong. But, you know, at mid-year, that tends to be a pretty good time for me to have like a more in-depth review of like what is going on with me, what's happening goals-wise, what kinds of things have I been wanting to focus on more, that I need to put my attention on more, what credit can I give myself, what have my wins been? And do I want to, you know, course correct, or do I need to steer very quickly in another direction? Like, it's nice to sit down, I think, at the mid-year. I know it's like a very sort of basic bitch move, but the mid-year review, it's a thing for a reason. I think for a lot of people, it feels instinctive to be like, oh, we're at that, you know, tipping point. So I've been thinking the last couple of weeks about self-care, about what is going on there, what needs to improve, and what my mentality has been around self-care. And that's been a really interesting process for me. So for me, I've noticed over the last maybe decade that I tend to split self-care down in my head into 4 separate categories. Like in my head, that's how I divide it out, right? So the first area of self-care is like, you know, your everyday foundational, you need it to stay alive type of self-care, right? And you might think to yourself, okay, but those things like brushing your teeth, for example, trying to get a decent sleep routine, staying hydrated, making sure you eat some green stuff, those things are not self-care, Kellyanne. They're just like part of being a sensible adult. I'm sorry, but to me, they're absolutely in a self-care category, of course, because they're easy to forget when you're going through a lot. They're really easy to like overlook or even to resist when you're going through some of the things I've been through, especially my major depressive episodes. Like, I've struggled with depression since forever, for as long as I can remember. The first time I remember feeling seriously blue, like dangerously blue in that way that feels chemical to me, I was like 10 years old. And I've had some seriously depressed episodes. And during those times, I want a fucking gold star every single time I manage to clean my teeth, hydrate, anything of that nature. So I always think of it as a self-care category. And I'm always trying to kind of like improve and streamline what goes on there. And sometimes it's fine. Sometimes it's seamless. But other times it takes effort to make sure that I'm just like in tune with my body and I'm giving my body those little things. Movement is one as well. Movement is definitely in category 1 of self-care for me. Those kinds of things are really important. Then category 2 is basically where we're still looking at the, you know, everyday foundational stuff that you need to do to be a healthy person. But it's like the add-ons. Okay, so it's things like taking time to read, making sure that I unplug from my phone, don't be scrolling all of the time, you know, stay connected to my friends, make sure that I'm meditating regularly and doing spiritual practice regularly, you know, sort of those kinds of things, right? So taking myself on a little date, going to an art gallery, going to a coffee shop, spending time journaling. So those things are, I guess, like in a lot of people's minds, more optional. But the idea with category 2 of my self-care is that I'm not thinking of them as optional. I am making sure that there are pockets of time where that is my plan, that is my aim, because I know that it enriches me and it helps me be stable, and it helps me to thrive, and it helps everybody around me, therefore, because if I'm good, then I'm going to be interacting well, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be present. So that's category 2, is kind of like, it's the flourishes. Category 1 is like, look, you need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to hydrate, you need to clean your teeth, you need to make sure that your bills are paid, you need to make sure that things are in order, right? You can't be like living with piles of stuff around. Like, you've got to, you know, the adulting. Okay, category 1 is like the adulting. And category 2, and I suppose category 1 I see more as things that I can divide into that category, because also I don't live with anybody, right? So a lot of the things that I do in category 1 that are to do with like making sure I get to bed on time and making sure that the dishes and laundry are done, those things could very well be more optional than they are for someone who lives in a family arrangement or with friends. But I don't want them to be optional. I want them to be a part of a very distinct, you know, self-care routine that I'm committed to. Category 2, that's like the add-ons, you know, so it's like making sure that when I'm going through those foundational things that are self-caring, I'm also making sure that I'm enriching my life. Like, you know, I'm reading, I'm walking, I'm connecting with people, I'm, you know, whatever. Category 3, that is kind of like self-care in relation to the way that I live my life, the way that I conduct myself. That's the deep shit. That's like my ethics, you know, my beliefs. Am I living in alignment with who I think I am and who I want to be? Am I not only explaining my philosophy, but embodying it? Am I making sure that I'm using my life to do things that I feel are honourable and kind and decent and, you know, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, radical. You know, so that's kind of like my making sure that I take time to be with my friends, to support them and love them. It's making sure that I take time to listen, and take time to study and read and be in community and be in protest and give of myself, you know, like, am I donating when I can? Am I giving a shit about anything outside of me, right? And am I conducting myself in the correct way in terms of the planet that I live on and in terms of the people that I love and live around? Am I being a nice person? Am I being a conscious person insofar as I can? And do I need to do any course correction there? Because like everyone else, I'm not perfect, you know? So that's really kind of like self-care in relation to, are you in a good relationship with yourself whereby you are what you think you are and what you say you are and what you hope you are, you know? Or is there a chasm there between those two things? The fourth self-care category for me is the big blowout, right? So that's kind of like where you plan an entire day of self-care, you plan an entire weekend with yourself, you plan to go on a date with yourself. If you have kids, right, for example, a big self-care blowout would be to say, I'm giving the kids to my mother-in-law or to a friend or to whatever for like half a day. And I'm going to take myself to an art gallery, take myself to a coffee shop. I'm going to buy myself a present or whatever. I'm going to go and do this thing with my friends. I'm going to allow myself to take off the role, the thick cloak of parenthood, and like be with myself and present with me. Not that you can't be with yourself and present when you're parenting, but whenever I talk about things like having a big self-care blowout, it's always in the back of my mind that a lot of people that watch me have young children. And I don't want them to be watching thinking, well, that's really lovely for you, little Miss Child Free, which is a fair reaction. But, you know, I want to sort of very much keep in mind and be conscious of the fact that people are caring for people that are ill. People have children. They have like a lot more responsibilities based on having dependents. And so, yeah, I want to be clear about that. Whatever a blowout would mean for you, for me, a blowout is like a whole day of planned stuff that I know is just going to be glorious. It's going to be gorgeous, right? And so that's the fourth category, is like when I've got something in the calendar. That's how we'll describe category 4 of self-care in my arrangement in my head, is that it's like I've got a cross on the calendar and I'm like, oh, it'll be lovely when I get to that day, because that's when I get to really like care for myself. That's going to be something beautiful for me that's going to really fill up the tank. So that's kind of how I divide it out. And that's useful for me when it comes to like just checking in and seeing whereabouts are things going okay. You know, I don't always need to have a big blowout self-care, self-love, self-deification, you know, like self-congratulations. I don't need one of those days like every other week or every other month, but it's nice to schedule them in. Darlings, this video is sponsored by Aura. I am very pleased and very lucky to be able to say that. Aura is an amazing sleep and wellness platform. It's used by over 7 million people worldwide. It won the Best of Apple award, and that is absolutely well deserved because it has a total treasure trove of different things in it, different tools, different options for things you can use to up your level of self-care, to stay connected to yourself, mind and body. It's really got a spiritual focus, but it's also got a very practical sleep and health and wellness focus. So you can use it for whatever you feel it's most suitable for you to use it for. But there's so many avenues you can take with this. So let me tell you about some of the features that I love. I love the mood tracker. I really love being able to look at what's been going on with my mood day after day. And I find that when I try to mood track on paper, I just like forget. I love the fact that there's different things on there, right? So there's like really incredible meditations that take you through different techniques. There's breath work stuff. There's ASMR. There's sleep stories. There's sound baths. I mean, really, your options are very vast. They also have live coaches. This is a feature that I love. I love seeing that there's a plethora of different coaches that are, you know, trained in and specialize in different things. And they do live sessions on the app, and you can actually set a notification so that when one of your favorite coaches goes live, or you see a talk that's happening in the future that you know you want to get to, Aura will send you a notification so you can make sure that you show up for that live time with that coach. So I really, really love how immersive it is. And I love the various different options that you've got to just give yourself something. You know, I wouldn't even say it's just to keep yourself on track and make sure that you give yourself something regularly. For me, listening to sleep stories when I fall asleep is very self-caring. I end up like getting stuck in my thoughts and having loads of tangled little random knots of thoughts. But when I listen to a sleep story, I calm down, I just follow the voice and I drift off. And I think Aura have great sleep stories. If you feel like you really want to go for it and you like properly mean it with self-care, you want to do something like you want to push the boat out, baby, then you can try their 30-day meditation challenge. I tried it and it was amazing. Definitely felt a difference from that. So if you want to check out what's going on with Aura, you want to feel it, you want to see it with your own eyes, then you can click the link in the description bar down below, and that gets you access to a free trial so you can have a look around, you know, try before you buy. And then it also gives you 25% off. That's only for the first 500 people that click the link. So if this is something that appeals to you and you think you need an app like this on your phone and in your life, then go ahead and do that, and it definitely helps the channel when you do that as well. If you look at the way your self-care is structured across these 4 categories, you'll notice that they don't go in a straight line like a set of stairs. You know, for example, you might be giving yourself a lot in terms of the normal but nice category 2, like the treats and the reading and the, you know, just like nice little experiences, presents for yourself, just making sure that you have those things that are enjoyable, that are like add-ons basically. But you might notice that in category 1, the basic simple you need this to adult category, you're not doing well there. You know, you've got like paperwork that needs to be filed, you've got something, you've got official calls that you need to make, like you actually haven't been eating well, you know, you've been like really in category 1 not doing well, and maybe you're overcompensating by going hard in category 2, for example. You know, so that can definitely be a thing. I think a lot of people, if they looked at this kind of like 4-way self-care category thing that I've created in my brain, I think also with like category 3, which is sort of like, are you living in alignment with what you believe and who you want to be, right? That is quite a heavy question. I think a lot of people beat themselves up about the extent to which they've been able to do that, and the extent to which they worry that it's going to interfere with their category 1 and category 2 stuff, right? Because if you live too much in alignment with your values, if your values are very radical and they're very kind of like system smashing, and you've got a lot of stuff you're really worried about or you care about, maybe there might be a hesitation there that if you take a lot of action in that regard, you're going to burn yourself out. You're not going to pay attention to doing all of these things you've worked to maintain in category 1 and category 2, you know, like making sure that you've got like a movement routine and you eat moderately well, and you know, all these things, and you're being nice to yourself and you're taking your downtime. Like I think a lot of people worry that if they go too far into living in alignment with themselves and who they think they are, then there can be a sense that they are going to lose other aspects. I think it's a beautiful, harmonious dance, to be honest with you. And I think for me, it's profoundly unself-caring to not look at that category and say, am I doing enough and living enough in a way that exhibits who I feel I am in my soul and what I really believe, you know? So anyway, it's interesting to note, I think, like where we are with each of these categories, and maybe you've been thinking about it as I've been rambling on. But I do feel like it's useful to think about that, and just think about any tweaks or adjustments that need to be made, and notice maybe like which categories do you feel more comfortable with, and which ones do you look at and think, oh, it's been a while since I had a blowout, or oh, you know what, I don't really give myself those little treats. I haven't been doing the normal but nice category 2 stuff. So yeah, think about it. I really enjoy to take the time to have this deep review. One thing that I've noticed when I've been reflecting on my self-care is that I need to course correct quite a lot when it comes to like actual relaxation. So just for example, like the last time I had a big blowout day planned, I think my camera's going weird. Okay, let's carry on. The last time I had a big blowout day planned for myself, it was mid-March, right? And I wanted to go to London for the day. I wanted to hit up an exhibition that I really wanted to go to, just with myself, no friends or anything like that. I really like a date with myself. And I had this whole big vision of how it was going to be, and it was going to be so lovely. And then I had to cancel on the day. I had to cancel on myself on the day because I hadn't finished everything with the book yet. I was still doing that last little bit and like doing the reread and making sure that it was good, really as good as I could make it before I handed it in. And I was already a bit late handing it in. So I screwed myself over there, right? And that was really disappointing. That was really disappointing. And that's on me, you know, like I take that. I take that and I own that. But then I decided to have a blowout day like a couple of days ago. So I had it booked in the calendar for a while, and I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to coincide it with my Aura sponsorship video, and it's going to be vibes. I'm going to do like all these beautiful self-caring things, and I'm going to take my audience on the journey with me and show them like a day of self-care, you know, like off-duty card slinger, kind of like witch relaxing type of video. And as it got closer and closer to my self-care day, I was feeling like a lot of a sense of burden, a sense of creative burden around that. And I was thinking, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like, I don't want to make a video like that necessarily right now. I feel like that's not what I'm in the mood for. I don't know if I'm going to want to do all of those activities on the day. So because I've got this idea of something that I've scheduled to film where I'm going to have all these distinct things I'm going to do, I'm going to feel like I'm beholden to that. I'm going to feel like I have to do that. And that's not self-caring. You know, I want my self-care day to be just like relaxing and random and just see where it goes. And instead, I've got this entire creative plan. And so I cancelled that. I was like, no. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And when I really, really dug down into what I wanted to do, I realized that I just wanted to experience some sacred inactivity. And I think that's part of the issue for me with self-care, is that a lot of my self-care is actually self-improvement, or a lot of my sense of like fun and relaxation is actually like leaning massively into something hugely creative or something very ambitious or something very sort of like brain draining in a sense, where I want to achieve, I want to accomplish essentially. And I know that a lot of people say that this is a huge issue nowadays, right? Because of the way that culture is set up, and the way that like the bind that late capitalism has us in. There is this idea that inactivity is not productive. It is not useful. It's not pushing towards some end that involves success and money. And so it's somehow, you know, like surplus to requirement, or it's not something that we should allow ourselves to do. I know that there's also a lot of people that were brought up with this idea that inactivity should be associated with laziness, and so therefore there's a lot of shame around it. This idea that you would just like sit around, just sit the fuck around, right? Like, to not really be doing anything in particular. I just want to be lazy. I just want to lie here. I just want to, you know, see what I want to do next with like no structure and no plan. A lot of people have a lot of weird feelings about that, and they find it difficult to do, even if they really want to and their body is crying out for it. You know, for me, I realized that there has to be a split inside my brain between what is self-caring in a soothing, relaxing, non-committal way that just lets my nervous system relax, and what is self-caring in more of a like, get my life together, sort this out, sort that out, you know, that kind of way. They're both self-care. They're definitely both self-care. And when I organize like a whole day for self-care stuff, like a blowout day, it's not always things like I'm going to go to a gallery and I'm going to do this and I'm going to read poetry outside in the moonlight. It's not always just that. It's also things like I'm going to reorganize all my jewelry. I'm going to sort out all the paperwork. I'm going to declutter those clothes and take them to the charity shop. So there are things that are like, you know, about things that have just been bugging me, things that I haven't done, things that I need to allow myself the space to focus on, because that's self-care also. But what I realized with myself is that when it comes to I just need to chill the fuck out, I just need to relax completely and not have anything on the agenda, that is something that I do not factor in that much. I am like, you know, just very hyperactive. Somebody said that to me recently, a sort of new friend of mine who has ADHD. I said to her that my therapist has noted several times now, that when I say certain things, they are like bang, 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 the diagnostic criteria of ADHD. Don't get me wrong, she has not diagnosed me and I'm not seeking a diagnosis. But it's really interesting how many times it's come up, and it's now become a bit of a running joke, right? Like, I can understand what she means. Anyway, this new friend of mine has ADHD. And when I said to her, like, oh, my therapist has noted that I sort of fulfill a lot of that criteria, my friend said, I see it. I saw it as soon as I met you. And I said, really? How? Tell me. And she said, you're totally hyperactive, for one. The hyperactivity is absolutely there. You know, mentally and physically a lot of the time. It's not even, you know, it's a cross of the two. And I thought, okay, you know what, that's fair. I am very hyperactive. And I sort of thought to myself, how much of that is nature and how much of that is self-nurture? Like, I'm sort of informing myself about who I am and what I can achieve and what I need to do and do, right? Like tick, 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 tick off the list and really feel accomplished. And I love feeling accomplished. I do. But what I'm trying to do now is figure out a self-care routine or a self-care sort of mindset, I guess you could say, where I feel really accomplished with the fact that I spent some time in sacred inactivity. One thing that I've really realized about inactivity is that when you do have periods of inactivity, they're usually because you're exhausted, because you're in resistance to doing what you know are supposed to be doing, right? Like, so it's like procrastination inactivity or anxiety inactivity. And so it's not like the joyous, relaxing, soothing inactivity. You know, a lot of my inactivity that I resent and I regret and I feel ashamed of is being on my phone for too long when I'm supposed to be doing other things. That is not the inactivity I'm talking about. I'm talking about sacred inactivity. And that is the shit that I want to schedule, and I want to mean it, and I want to be conscious of, like, yes, I choose right now to be doing nothing much in particular. Like, that's my choice. Rather than to realize that I've fallen into inactivity, or I've panicked myself into inactivity. I've numbed myself out with inactivity that's not really my choice. It's not something that I genuinely want. So I realized that in order to have more periods of sacred inactivity, I need to schedule them. I need to take them seriously. You know, it's all well and good to be like, well, I don't want to have most of my do nothing time be about procrastination or distraction or whatever. I want it to be like nice, you know, where I've chosen it. It's all well and good to say that. But if I don't actually say, right, tomorrow I'm doing fuck all, I'm not doing anything other than what I utterly have to do, right? If I don't say that, then that's going to continue to be an issue. And I need to realize that inactivity is sacred. That it's sacred. And that's kind of been a bit of brain training for me. Another thing my therapist said to me recently, and I mentioned this in my one card riff on Patreon, so my patrons will be watching this being like, we know, bitch, we know. But basically my therapist said to me recently that I seek much more of the dopamine joy than the serotonin joy. You know, the feel good that I want is like the striving, the pushing for something, the achieving, the getting of the thing. And I'm less interested in the relaxing, play, ambling somewhere without really having a solid direction, just enjoying, right? And when she said that to me, I was like, oh my God, you're so right. I'm a fucking dopamine chaser. I love the top of the hill feeling, the kind of like, oh, I did it, yeah, and I can't wait to feel like I did it again, like that feeling. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm amped up on that shit. Like, part of my self-care recently has been about going over to the other side, being like, no, there's no aim, you know? It's funny because I can really talk other people through the process of doing that for themselves, but it's evidently harder for me. I fall into that like dopamine style of doing things a lot, and I'm less inclined towards the kind of like just, you know, I'm more like dun, 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 like that's just, I don't know, that's that's how I would describe those two forms of seeking joy and seeking calmness and comfort and pleasure, or you know, a good time, basically. The dopamine and the serotonin way, and I need more of a balance, I think. I'm interested to know down below if anybody else is similar and has only maybe just realised it from watching this fucking video. But yeah, hit me up, let me know. I've thought a lot recently about how personal, how profoundly personal self-care is. You know, every single person that comes to this point in the road where they say, I need to think about how I'm looking after myself. Like, what am I doing for myself that is healthy, that is good? Every single one of us has to have our own very individual conversation about that. It looks different for every person. You know, like people have different things that they need to admit to themselves, that they need to confront within themselves, because self-care is not just like your lavender scented bubble baths and making sure that you get yourself those things that you want or spend time in relaxation, right? Self-care is taking care of business, taking care of making sure that you know, that you adult well, that you don't keep skipping out on things that you need to be doing, that you honor your commitments, that you know, don't leave things past deadlines and then get stressed about them and it affects your nervous system, that you deal with those little habits that you have around things like boundaries and communication and all of that stuff, right? So every single person has to look at what's going on in their life and say for themselves, that's an area where I routinely skip out on self-care. This is something that I really do need to look at. And it will be sometimes a thing that you see other people doing really well, and you start to feel shame around it. You're like, well, you know, other people seem to be able to do that so easily. I don't know why I have such a problem. This person over here is really smashing it in that regard. Why the fuck can't I do the same? What is it about me? What is my problem? Why am I so, you know, blah, 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 why am I so? And so I think it's sort of like it's a very deep conversation that we have to have with ourselves. And there are a lot of people, I think, that want to have sort of like a blanket, they blanket statement self-care. They say that everybody basically needs the same things. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that people react differently to life and have different needs in life. And one person's self-care would consist of a lot of things that another person doesn't need to do. They don't feel, you know, that they have any great sense of need for that. They're okay without it. For example, you know, there are lots of like self-care fascists in this world who believe that in order to be self-caring, you need to have like a clean and tidy house and everything put where it needs to be, and, you know, not holding on to stuff that you don't need. And it's really, really good to focus on that if you need to focus on that. And I've needed to focus on it a few times. I love objects, I love clothes, I love books. And I've had to be really honest with myself about the stuff that I have, and that it's causing stress on some level, or it's taking up space and it's not needed anymore, right? So it's good to have that conversation with yourself. But some people don't need that. They want to be surrounded by their stuff. They like their fucking stuff. There isn't an issue with it for them. Or some people will say that, you know, self-care really should include having time away from your phone, time away from electronic devices, like, you know, a whole day where you don't look at your phone. But some people don't need that because they don't feel hooked on their phone. They have what they feel is a healthy relationship with social media, a healthy relationship with the internet. And so, you know, in all of these different ways, you have to tune in with what you think and feel. There are people that really, really would push what we would term as clean living, right? Clean living as self-care. But for a lot of other people, it's taken them a lot to come to the point where they could just be in moderation with things like alcohol, or things like, you know, high sugar, high fat foods or whatever. So one person's path isn't the same as another person's path. And there are a lot of really complex feelings around self-care for the individual. You know, like a lot of people resist caring for themselves because they are punishing themselves, because they actually have deeper issues with feeling that it's acceptable for them to have anything, to do anything for themselves, or to let anyone do anything for them. I think for some people, like I said earlier, self-care is associated with laziness. It's associated with a shameful thing. If you relax, or if you kind of like figure out pockets of time where you can just be at peace with doing nothing. And so they're always like busying themselves, you know, and there's a feeling of like, well, that's what my identity is based around. And every single time they might plan something self-caring in that kind of like relaxing sort of category 2 area where it's like, I'm just going to read and I'm just going to whatever, they will suddenly find that, oh, what a shame, I can't do that because I've got something to do. I've got somewhere to be. I've got someone to see. I've got something that I need to do. And so, you know, there's something deeper going on there. And that individual going through that has to speak to themselves about that. For some people, and this is including me, self-care is not only is it blighted sometimes by issues with mental well-being, like I said, my depression over the years has led me to some massive times of struggling massively with category 1, let me tell you. Well, all the bloody categories, to be honest. But definitely category 1 suffers when depression comes knocking. If you want to know more about my experiences with depression, I will leave a video down below that I did about stigma relating to depression and various symptoms of depression. But yeah, I think, you know, not only is self-care blighted by mental health, and so there's a conversation that people have to have with themselves there, but I think also for me, self-care often creates a space whereby my grief might flood in, right? So I'm bereaved. For those of you who don't know, who are new around here, my brother died 2 years ago unexpectedly, and I'm in the process of a very, very heavy bereavement journey and doing a lot of therapy around that and a lot of journaling around that and a lot of, to be honest with you, just sliding down the wall and fucking crying my eyes out around that, as you would expect. And so self-care, the category 2 self-care in particular, and the blowout category 4 vibe as well, those things create pockets of space whereby the tidal waves of grief might flood in. You know, if you're busying yourself and you're constantly doing the dopamine thing, the achieving now, then that can also be a form of avoidance. It can help you to avoid the pain that is inside yourself. It can help you to give yourself a ready excuse for why you can't address that. You can't be in the midst of that. You can't be present with it. You can't sit with it because there's no time to sit with it, you know? So, you know, that's a lot of what it is. I think self-care is also deeply personal in so much as a lot of people would disappoint a lot of people if they practiced self-care in the way that they might deep down feel that they need to. Self-care is not easy. Self-care is not an easy, happy, clappy thing. Some parts of it are amazing. Those blowout days when you get them right and you're like, oh, it's such a gorgeous date with myself, such a lovely time to do this thing that I wanted to do. I've really nurtured myself, right? Great, lovely. But a lot of self-care is like setting boundaries around things. A lot of self-care is like saying no to every favor asked of you. Well, not every favor, but not saying yes to every favor asked of you, I should say. A lot of self-care is resetting rules around things like household chores and resetting the dynamics between yourself and others when you find that you are often the listening helper and they are often the help-rejecting complainer. And you have to, like, in order to self-care, you've got to switch that. You've got to start shortening those fucking phone calls. You've got to start, you know, trying to build a more equal relationship. And sometimes even just point blank saying like, hey, our relationship is a lot about you, I feel. You know, I'd like to change that or whatever. That's very fucking hard. All of those things are really hard. You're breaking the habit of a lifetime sometimes in order to promote self-care in your life, and you're going to piss some people off, and you're going to realize that some people will not be able to withstand being in a relationship with you once you are self-caring because they're not benefiting from you. And that is hard to realize. That is really hard, and it makes it harder to instate those self-care habits because you're so scared of realizing that you don't want to feel that you were wanted for what you could provide, and that making these changes that are good for you kind of casts you out of some people's lives. There's so much there. And with category 3, you know, looking at like, am I in right relationship with my ethics, you know, with what I really think life means, with what I want to have matter in my reality. That also is a deeply personal conversation that one has with themselves, where they really think about like, what is at the heart of me and whereabouts am I contradicting that? It's quite shadow worky, you know, it's looking at like, How do my actions fall totally out of alignment with my words and my philosophies and my big talk? Am I all big talk, no action, basically? That's also a really hard part of self-care. I know that I've spoken about self-care on my channel on and off through the years, and I think it's a really important discussion to have. But also, whenever you're putting out generalized advice about self-care, you have to be really, really aware of the fact that the person watching you talk and listening to what you're saying is going through a bunch of things that you are not aware of, you know? And so I try not to be prescriptive, because I think another really deeply personal thing about self-care is the fact that, like, there are things that are off limits to some people to be able to do. There are things that a person would need help to be able to do. They would need a certain amount of money that's out of reach for them to be able to do. Like, for example, I try very much not to say things like, oh, everybody should get therapy, get therapy, get therapy. I see that a lot online. Everyone should get therapy. And I like the idea of it. Like, everybody should be able to access therapy. I fully agree. If they want it, they should be able to access it. But I also don't want to sit here as someone who is able to get weekly therapy and make somebody feel like they are shut out of something that could be supremely self-caring in a way that they can't get to. Because while that is true, that, yeah, there is something that they can't access that they want to access, that it can be very self-caring, I think what I want to do is strive to kind of meet people where they are. And a really deeply personal thing about self-care is that some people are trying to self-care while they're dealing with, like, you know, chronic pain issues, while they're dealing with all kinds of mental health issues, while they're dealing with having various different dependents, while they're caring for an aging unwell parent, you know, all of these different things. Like, they're trying to self-care in the midst of certain situations in their families or in their communities or in their countries that make certain things more difficult and also, you know, more necessary. And so, you know, you always have to think about the fact that, like, wow, every person has to be where they are with what is needed with self-care and be as honest with themselves as they can. And so that's something that I always try and do as well, because I think that self-care is, it undulates, right? And I think if you look at all 4 categories that I've laid out in this video, you'll notice that sometimes it's easier to fulfill something in a certain category than at other times. And you're kind of like smashing it in a certain category, but not so much in another. But also, self-care is not a clean, unbroken line. It's not a straight road, you know? It's almost like I say about self-love a lot of the time. Like, I always say self-love is not a destination, it is a decision. It is a daily choice. It is something that you wake up every day and you decide for yourself that your decisions, your words, everything that you do is going to be put through the lens of self-love. And you may have to course correct several times. You might do something and then later be like, oh, that was unself-loving. But you kind of course correct. And I think self-care is similar in a way. It's almost frustrating because we tell ourselves, oh my God, I'm at this certain age now. I'm at this certain amount of understanding. Why can I not just do self-care in an unbroken line? Why do I keep falling down with doing my skincare? Why do I keep dropping off with doing that journaling? Why do I keep struggling with maintaining control over my space and the tidiness and the organization? Like, I know that I want to keep doing this. Why do I keep falling off? Why do I keep falling off with my movement schedule? Why do I keep falling off with this, right? But I kind of feel like one thing that really helped me a lot, especially with my relationship to movement, which you'll notice I don't even call it exercise anymore. I call it movement, because I find that so much less rigid for me, and it helps me connect with the reason why I'm really doing it. Movement is way better for me than saying that I'm exercising or I'm working out. But something about my relationship with movement that was so useful was to realize that there's not going to be any fucking point in my life where I just go to the gym 4 times a week. There just isn't. Clearly, there is a little bit more ebb and flow than that. It's an ebb and a flow. Sometimes I want to get my movement in other ways. Sometimes that's not it for me to go to the gym. Sometimes it really is, and I'm really pleased, and I have a month where I go loads. And then other times I have, you know, various issues. Like, I have health issues at the moment. I don't want to go into it all here, but I know my patrons do know. And so there's been a difficulty there. So I don't always want to be in movement, and things change. And I have to, like, go with what feels right. The pressure and the shame that I put on myself several times throughout my life about consistency, breaking consistency, stopping, and then feeling like I was doing so well. It was going. It was a straight unbroken line. And then I fucked it up, right? I don't want to ever put that on myself. That's not fair on me. If you're doing that to yourself, please stop. Please, for the love of Goddess, stop. Okay? Stop doing that. And whatever is happening right now in your life, whatever is happening, whatever amount of self-care you can give to yourself, please do. And I don't know, like what kind of handbasket we're all going to hell in right now. But let me tell you, just because there's a lot of mad shit going on in this world, just because there's a lot of pain, just because there's a lot of anguish, just because there's a lot of uncertainty, does not mean that your self-care and your relationship to yourself has no meaning, darling. It does. It does have meaning. You fucking deserve. You deserve to care for yourself. And also, you know what? Who the fuck is it helping if you don't? That's what I always think. Like, because that is one of the issues about self-care, isn't it? Is that it's so wound up. For me, it's heavily bound up in this, sometimes it feels like a near constant awareness that other people don't have this, right? I'm literally hydrating and I'm thinking about people that don't have water. I'm eating something nutritious. I'm thinking about people that can't have that. I'm walking the streets, looking at the beautiful buildings, and I'm thinking about people that can't have that. Like, it's a near constant awareness. And what ends up happening sometimes is when you're very, very invested in the wider, bigger picture, and you care, your heart extends beyond yourself, beyond your family and your immediate group, extends outwards. It's a connection to humanity and it's a connection to the planet, right? You might look at your self-care and say, it's pointless, it's selfish, I won't give it to myself because other people can't have it, it's not relevant right now, there's bigger things to do. But I'm telling you, whatever aim you have to be of any use in this world, to make any difference in your society or in your group of people or in the, in a marginalized group you're a part of or that you want to be an ally to, whatever difference you want to make is actually going to be thwarted by you not practicing self-care. So when you're thinking about like bigger picture, other people don't have things. There's struggle and pain and hardship going on all the time. There's mass death going on right now. Who the fuck am I to sit and be like, I need to have a little reading session. I need to go on a nice walk. I need to make sure I have a luxurious bath. Like, who the fuck am I? Believe me, I get it. I get it. I understand. I do. But the truth is, anything you want to achieve, like collectively, is going to be thwarted by you abandoning yourself personally, on the personal level, right? So that's kind of how I think about it. And I made a video a while ago about activism and energy management. I'll leave it down below. Please check it out if you haven't already. I would like it to have a few more views. But in that video, I talk about guilt in relationship to activism, the guilt around being able to have things, basic things, all right? None of the self-care stuff that I really ever talk about is related to big money things, like things that you wouldn't be able to afford. I'm not sitting here saying you need to eat a gourmet meal every night, you need to go for a spa treatment, you need to book a holiday, all of that stuff. It's not about that. Everything that I focus on with self-care that I talk about is about things that are like, not every single one of them is going to be doable for every single person. Even just now when I said have a luxurious bath, a lot of people don't have a bathtub. So, it's not everything is going to be for every person, but I'm not talking about like big ticket fucking premium price point items for self-care. Even though I think they can be part of a self-care practice, we can't afford to think about how we're locked out of that stuff and therefore we can't self-care. And that's another thing about self-care that's an issue. It's been commodified. It's been wrapped up in aspiration and influencer bullshit and, all of that. And it makes us feel very comparative and very kind of like in a sense of lack around what it is that we can't get to because we don't have that life, because we can't pursue something that has that financial aspect to it, because our life doesn't look like that or whatever. And that can really breed a lot of insecurity around what we are doing for our self-care. So yeah, that's another really big issue with it. But I feel like, I can't remember what the original point was I was going to make, but I lost my tangent, which is very, very rare for me. But yeah, I just feel like it's really important that we do what we can for ourselves. And when it comes to, I think I was tying it up with that discussion about guilt. When it comes to thinking about like how many people don't have so many of the things that you could give yourself right now, how many people don't have the luxury of thinking about what their self-care routine is going to be for the week. And so it feels indulgent, it feels decadent, it feels opulent. I assure you it's fucking not. I assure you it's not. It's something that every human being should be able to do. And for as long as we are able to do it on any level, let us do it. And if you are really category 3 about your self-care and you want to live in alignment with your values, you better do it, because you're not going to be helping anybody all that much for a consistent, ongoing amount of time if you're cutting yourself out of the care and the healing and the love that you want to give. Please be a part of that yourself. Give that to yourself also. Because guaranteed, if you're this far through a video on my channel, I know you've been through some fucking shit. Because that's really the one thing that brings the majority of my audience together, right? Like, you've been through it on some level, whether it was physical health, mental health, familial bullshit. Like, something has fucking happened to you, okay? That is why you relate to my work. Something has happened to you and you decided to do a deep fucking dive, okay? You are a believer in alchemy, in personal alchemy. And so please, please don't leave yourself off the agenda when it comes to who and what you are caring for and caring about. It's vital that you do not leave yourself out. Oh, God, I'm so passionate today. Before I go, darlings, I want to say a couple of other things, okay? First of all, if you haven't done this in a while, or if you haven't ever done this, make a list of things that are self-caring. Make a list of everything that you can think of that you know is an act of self-care. It can be in relation to your physical body. It can be in relation to your sense of organization and administration, right? Just making sure that life is on lock, that you've sort of called who you need to call and you've done what you need to do, etc., right? Like, it could be that adulting shit. It can certainly be to do with boundaries. It can be to do with things that are connected to your sense of self-respect. It can be to do with energy management, time management. It can be in any regard, right? Spiritually, creatively. Sit and write down a list of things, because I think that most of the time I do need to be reminded of this, right? A long time ago on my channel, I talked about how in my file of facts, I have a list of routines. And the routine section of my file of facts literally just lists out how I clean and tidy every room, right? Or how I organize things. So my kitchen, right, has a routine for it, and it literally lists out everything on there. The reason for that is because when I go into my kitchen and I think, okay, I need to do the floor, change the bins, blah, 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 clean the fridge, whatever, I can quickly get overwhelmed, or like I'm doing several different things at once. I feel like none of those things get finished. I feel like I'm ferreting away, but nothing's really coming together. Having a routine is really useful. I open up my file of facts. I still do this. I open up my file of facts and I'm like, right, I go through the list. Check the bin, does it need changing? Do you need to do this? Do you do this? Like, it's useful for me. It just gives me a sense of like, oh yeah, those are the things. Yeah, those are the things. And I feel that I have like this sort of pre-made companion through the journey. A lot of people don't need that. A lot of people would think it's absurd and hilarious that I would need that. But fuck them, because they don't know what it's like to be me. They don't know what it's like to be me. And I have fashioned my entire adult life almost, and certainly the entirety of my business, right? The readings and the sessions and the workshops that I do, I fashioned all of that around caring for myself in a sovereign manner. In other words, not giving a fuck what's going on to the left of me or the right of me, but really sitting honestly with what I need. What is going to make life easier for me? And if other people find it weird or absurd that I might need to do certain things for my mental well-being, or that certain things make my life easier, that's fine. That's okay. Like, it's nothing to do with them. So if you find that you actually forget to do certain things for your self-care, make a list of them. Make a list of them. Keep it on your phone. Keep it on your fridge. Keep it in your journal, right? I feel like it's good sometimes to schedule in. If you use a schedule, a paper or electronic schedule, you might want to schedule in certain things that seem like they should be routine, but actually for you have ended up not being routine for one reason or another. Definitely do a mid-year review if you've listened to this and you've thought, you know what, I need to have a check-in with myself about self-care, what's going on there. Do that, but also try and do reviews more regularly if you want to. And don't forget to take credit for and acknowledge and enjoy every single little self-care step that you take. You know, like for me, I feel I want a gold star for the things I do to self-care sometimes, because I could have just as easily not done them. And I know that a lot of self-care is about your future self, right? So a lot of self-care, as I was saying earlier about like self-care, is about confronting things that you haven't wanted to do or that you've been avoiding. That is because a lot of self-care is around taking action now so that future you is provided for, taking action now so that future you doesn't have to worry about it. So you might not want to do it in this moment, but you know it's self-caring to do it, right? And so a lot of those actions that you take that you think, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do it, right? When you take those actions, give yourself the credit and don't underestimate the self-care that you do actually achieve. You know, the mindset shifts that you go through, those little things, those little flourishes and touches and decisions that you make that you know put you into alignment with caring for yourself, with making sure that you are okay. Don't forget to give yourself credit for that. Because I think when we feel that we're not being self-caring and things are going a bit awry in that department, it can be really easy to overlook what we are doing to take care of ourselves. And I really hope this video has helped anybody who needed it. Please get at me down below and let me know what you feel about self-care. Is there anything going on, any tips or tricks that you can give to us? Anything that you've realized about what it takes to care for yourself? And yeah, I think that's all for now. I think I could go on about this all day, but let me not do that. But yeah, thank you for this. I've really, really enjoyed sort of divulging and talking through my theories and my like stresses, I guess. Yeah, and here's to more self-care for all of us, every single one. Darling, please don't forget, I do have a Patreon. You can check it out down below if you want to get involved with the Patreon goodness. We have a cauldron ritual this month going on in the Pop-Tarts tier, so that's exciting. I've got affirmations coming for everybody. I've got an audio offering coming, so there's lots of good things coming. You can also book a session with me, book a reading with me, book a package of sessions if you want to. There's lots of different ways to work with me. I'm a qualified spiritual counsellor, an award-winning tarot reader, and a published author. Yeah, like promoting myself there a little bit, and I will consider that to be a self-caring action. Okay, thank you once again, Aura, for sponsoring this video. Don't forget, my darlings, to click the link, get involved with Aura, enjoy some meditation and some relaxation and some reflection and all of that jazz. Much love, my darlings. Take care. Blessed be. Mwah.